Good evening, Harrington Park. Wanted to check back in with everyone after the last couple of days, and specifically in relation to a couple of things that have been happening outside of Harrington Park. As you're well aware, um, things are changing in real time, and for us, those changes um, cause a lot of anxiety and in some ways create confusion and misunderstanding. And that's a component that I'd like to talk to you a little bit about tonight. The idea that um, this district put out just a few weeks ago what we believe to be our 6 tenets of understanding. And those 6 things are things that we believe will be the most important things we do as a district when it comes to the reopening of school in 2020. The idea that those 6 things, irregardless of whatever plan is put into place, those things will remain. From the idea of small class sizes, which tremendously impacts our health component, right? The idea that when you have less children in a room, staying in that room, you have a massive impact in the health relation. That also has a tremendous impact in our educational program. It allows us as staff members and as educators to drill deep into the educational knowledge and help our children through this process, not just educationally, but emotionally too. I want you to understand something. It's those 6 tenets that are critical for us. And I would like you to, of course, go back and look at those. They're posted up on the web under our health tab if you need to see them. But again, please refer back to those 6 tenets because those are the things we believe in, even from the idea of cleaning our own hands and having hand washing stations throughout the facility, trying to think outside of the box when it comes to health and security and safety of our families and our students and our staff. That's the critical issue. And it's interesting. We discussed the idea that we are changing in real time, right? We have a federal CDC change over the last 72 hours in relation to how we look at screening, to processes on re-entering a facility, to changes outside of the Department of Education, and also the idea that things have been changing from our governor's office, which does impact us as a district, and it does impact the plans that we've created. I want you to understand that when we put that first letter out, the idea was that there was not the idea of choice, but the idea that a medical note would be used to allow students that freedom. That changed within less than 48 hours. And that does have a tremendous impact on the district and how we then plan a separate digital program, which we've always been. We've always been preparing for that. I want you to understand something, that this district is well ready, well prepared, with a multitude of solutions. We have plans on top of plans because we have to plan that way, because what we are seeing is change all the time. Will we be a full building in? Will we be hybrid? Will be rotational programs? Will we be totally virtual? I think until we as a state and as a Department of Education and as a community really get some strong answers, for us, it would be very irresponsible. Because here's what I mean by that. Inside of our parent surveys, there were so many of you that answered some very key words to me. And they were about health and wellness and anxiety and stress, not just in your children's lives, but in your own. And how do we answer those? Well, if we have plans ready to go and we put a plan out and then that plan has to be retracted, let's walk through that process. For those of you who could remember Barnes & Noble, back in the day, there would be rows and rows of books about the change process and us as adults handling that process. And if we put a plan out and that plan then has to be retracted or revised or amended, we now put us back into a change process. So we go from misunderstanding to acceptance to, oh, I'm sorry, that now has to change again. Now, we as adults don't handle that well. I think it's very irresponsible for us to do that for our children. I think as we are building this program, whatever that could be, because our main goal is that safety and health and wellness of our students, right? Think about that, right? If we give them the plan and we pull it back, that's unacceptable for me. Look, kids are resilient, kids are tough. I understand that, but there are some times that doesn't always work. And in this case, I would say all of these plans that we have ready to go need to sit right here until we know what that's going to look like. I again believe deep in my heart, and I speak as a father, and I speak as a husband of an educator, and a son of an educator, and an uncle of an educator. Like, you have to understand how deeply I believe in this mission, and that stress and anxiety will cross over into multiple areas if we don't do this right. So that being said, this week I think it's important for you to receive a few different items from us that we've put together for you. And this week you're going to receive a little bit of a roadmap back with some FAQs, but also the idea of what does the process and procedure look like currently, because it changed over the weekend, for students, staff, and community members when there is an outbreak, when there is a situation of a possible outbreak. How do we handle that? What does it look like? That's anxiety producing itself, not just for our students, but our staff and our community members. That's going to be in that packet as well, because that's important for you to understand that. I think those pieces together that look into, well, what does a hybrid model look like? Well, what does a traditional model look like for us? What's a fully virtual model going to look like for us? I think if you have those multiple pieces, even if it's a 30,000-foot view, it'll give you some semblance of understanding of where we're going. And I think that's a critical piece for us. Another component that I would stress to our families as a working family here, I think it's critical that you start to begin to prepare your family plan, right, for September 1, and whatever that looks like, from the highest level of impact where we have a situation where there might be a total virtual program, to maybe it's least impactful where we have a traditional program. I think it's important for you to start to work on those scenarios now, just as we are in this home, because then that's going to give you a semblance of understanding and a baseline for your kids to also understand. That being said, we also are going to be continuing to offer an aftercare program, which is going to run to at minimum 5:30 at night, with a start time that's going to be TBD, because what we are going to do is have that time prepared for whatever time we end in, right? And I think that's a critical piece for us. I also think another component you should understand is where we're going with our community groups. Currently, right now, we're working with a group of our community members to help us create a very outside of the box enrichment program for our upper grade students. I want to thank them personally for that work, because this is something we can do differently than anyone else. And lastly, what I would ask you is to continue to have that understanding. Look, we have a philosophy here, and leading the way is not just a thing that we put on a piece of paper, and it's not just on our envelopes. We believe that if we do the things we're supposed to do, you will always lead the way, right? You don't have to be first, but to be the best at it, you've got to work at it. And for us, having all our plans ready to go, having everything prepared for the health and wellness of our students and our staff and our community members ready to go, is the most critical piece. I also invite you again to please take a moment, just like we are, just like I did. Take a few hours, take that Johns Hopkins course on Coursera. Get yourself a great baseline understanding of what this thing is and what it's doing, and how we as a community can help each other. And it's not about contact tracing, and it's not about doing that. It's about understanding and then preparing and giving that knowledge to others. And I think that's a critical piece as well. So again, I thank you for your understanding. I thank you for checking in on us and checking in on our channel here to hear the most updated information. But look for those 4 pieces of information that come out this week in regards to our FAQ, our roadmap back in the idea of our way back, as we like to call it, which gives you that 30,000 foot view of where we are. But it's also to circle back to the idea that we do this for a purpose and a reason. We're doing this for the children that we serve on a daily basis. My role as the superintendent of this district is to love and care for those children like they're my own, and I've always felt that way. That is my job. That is the same job that I expect my children's superintendent to do. Love my girls like I love these children. So the idea that to create more anxiety, more fear, more angst in these little bodies, I want you to take those few minutes and think about that, and the idea that we can do this together better and look at these different models differently. And when we do get better understanding of it all, roll out the very best plan for us as a district. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your night. I know it's summertime. Hopefully you're enjoying something somewhere. But again, thank you for your time and your understanding and your patience.